I'm going to go ahead with the meeting beginning ritual.
起立，面向佛堂，参加三鞠躬、一鞠躬、再鞠躬、三鞠躬，参加各位点传是一鞠躬，开班一鞠躬，请坐下。Please be seated. So, chapter 10 is relatively long. I would say mid-size. It's not the longest, but it's certainly not short. So previously, we analyzed the structure of 10, and we could see that it breaks up roughly in two parts, and the first part can be further divided into two subsections. So we talked about how the first section is about internal Tao cultivation, and then the second subsection, as you can see here, from 7 to 12, is going to be the external Tao cultivation. We don't usually think about interacting with other people as part of cultivating spirituality, but in the Tao, it's very much part of your homework assignment, so to speak, in spirituality, that you have to mind not just the inner spiritual landscape, but also your external interactions with other people. So we were able to cover pretty much that first half, including the first two subsections last time, the last two meetings, and we got to the very last part here, and in fact, we got pretty close to the end. So today, we're gonna do a review of the 3 lines right before the mystic virtue, because the mystic virtue is an important concept. I want to make sure everyone understands exactly. Okay, everybody, I have a report about audio being lost. How about for everybody? Sometimes if it's just one person, 1 or 2 people, it could be a local issue, like a connection to the internet problem on your end. But if a lot of people are losing the audio, it could be something more serious, a problem on my end, possibly a problem at the central server. So let me just do a checkout for everybody. How's my audio now? Is my audio lost? And let me also send a message out to everybody. And let me pause so I get the answer for that. Okay. Now I'm getting a notification that the audio connection has been lost. And so how is my audio now? Can anyone let me know? Okay. Okay, still right? Thanks, everybody. I will continue to monitor as I talk. All right, so to continue, our objective today is to get a really part and I keep, so guys, I keep getting notification from GoToMeeting that the audio connection is lost. That's another reason why I'm feeling a little bit nervous. All right, let's proceed. So previously, I suggested that people take this test, which is a video on YouTube. So I think some of you guys have. And I heard from my friend Pamela, she definitely went through it. She got the same result that I did when I took it. which is that, which is basically that I failed, and so she also had the same outcome. So my curiosity is, were you able to go on YouTube and type in selective attention test and go through the 1-minute video and see if you passed the test? I'm curious. Yeah, Suzanne, same, exactly the same for me. And Francis, yes, you and me both, and along with a whole bunch of other people too. So for those of you who have gone through it, there is another test right after this one. It's also on YouTube. It's also very short, like a minute's worth. It's called Monkey Business. So once you've gone through this one, you may want to try the other one too. Okay, I see Barry, I see Carolyn. Yeah. Oh, excellent. Carolyn, I'm glad that this is kind of a practical thing, something that you can use. So one thing that I'll say about this particular test is that, yes, indeed, human attention is selective and also can be easily misdirected, easily misled. So that is the reason why stage magicians have been in business for so long, and they're still doing great business today. We go to Vegas now, you can see all kinds of shows with all kinds of amazing illusions. And a lot of it is done by utilizing, exploiting this human weakness, our ability to not be able to take everything in all at once, especially if we are unaware. So in the Tao, when it talks about mindful awareness, it's talking about mindful awareness of everything that's going on in the present moment. So it's easy to lose that mindful awareness. That is the reason why in the Tao, we have to constantly remind ourselves to be mindfully aware, to notice what's going on, not just in front of us, but also behind us, all around us. And that's what the story from Zhuangzi about the mantis hunting the cicada, that's what that story was all about too. So whether it's the strange bird in the story from Zhuangzi, the praying mantis, the cicada, the selective attention test that we're looking at here, and the one following this, it's all the same message that awareness is important, and most people are not as aware as we like to think we are. So there's plenty of room to cultivate ourselves, to become even more aware. So leaving that behind and moving to the last line that we looked at previously. So let me draw your attention to the blue text at the bottom. Give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, teach him to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. So this is a saying. What I spoke about last time is that I had previously interacted with people who thought that it was a passage from the Bible. It's actually not. What was from the Bible was when Jesus said to his followers, his disciples, to follow him, and he will teach them to become fishers of men. That was the quote from the Bible. This is a different quote, and it's a different thing, different idea. It ties back to line 16, raising without domination. So the idea is that you can be smothering, you can be doing too much, you can be interfering with your kids, with your children. And the best way, the better way to raise kids is not just to provide for them, but to teach them to become independent. Hence the saying, teaching him to fish here is the metaphor for making someone more independent so they know what to do and not just know how to receive from what you give to them. So the oldest use of this proverb dates back to 1885 in a novel, and there are reasons to believe that this actually comes from a very ancient Chinese saying, and that was the slide that we got to previously. Maybe a translation of an ancient Chinese saying, 授人以鱼不如授人以渔. So as we talked about before, literally that translates to giving a person fish cannot compare to teaching a person the skill of fishing or how to fish. So there's a couple of different ways to translate that, but I think you get the idea. I think you get the message. So from the Tao perspective, here's the conclusion. This is how Tao sages and cultivators benefit the people. They never hoard knowledge. And people who have a proprietary mindset about knowledge, they will dole it out little by little. They don't. The real sages, on the other hand, they don't hold anything back when they share what they know. Because why bother holding anything back when the source they're tapping into, which is the Tao, it's an infinite source. You can always go back for more. You will never run out. When that is the case, you can share abundantly and receive abundantly. So I want to take a moment to break down the Chinese here, because I think it provides a very vivid visual imagery to help everyone remember this concept. So what I've done here is that I've taken the Chinese and I've broken it down into 3 parts. The first 4 characters, the middle 2 characters, and then the last 4 characters. So first 4 characters literally means giving someone fish. Middle 2 characters literally means cannot compare to. And then the last 4 characters literally means teaching someone to fish. The reason why I break it up in this fashion is because now you can compare the first 4 characters and the last 4 characters. There's a lot of similarities. The characters are the same except for one character. Can you visually pick out the character that is different? Anyone? That's correct. The last character is different. And the difference is slight. That is, this particular character, the very last character in the saying, has 3 dots or slashes on the side. That's a radical, and it means water. So the last character here means fish. When you add the radical next to it, it becomes a verb. It means to fish. Now, about this particular character here, the fish character, this is actually something that evolved from a pictograph in ancient times. So the Chinese language began as stick figure drawings. So I have an example to share with everyone here. There's a whole bunch of characters that are in use in modern day Mandarin. And you'll see it in a column here on the left. You'll also see it on the column here to the right. So a drawing, a sketch by hand of those characters would look like the column right next to it. Now that's not ancient Chinese, that's just a drawing. So ancient Chinese was more similar to the drawing in that it's a simplified sketch, a pictograph, as I mentioned. So the one at the very top, it's actually the character for the sun, and you can see how it evolves into the present day. Second character, that is the character for the eye. And again, you can see how that character has evolved through the ages into the character for the eye today. Now, it's pretty similar to the character for the sun, so it's easier to get confused, but you notice that there's an extra line in the middle. So they started out actually as very different drawings, but as they evolved and become more abstract, they kind of look similar accidentally. Then we have a character here that's the drawing for a tree. It becomes the character for wood, because wood comes from tree. So in the stick figure drawing, you've got the trunk, you've got the branches, and you've got the roots. And that kept mostly the same until the present day. When you put two of these characters next to each other, side by side, you form the character Lin, which is my surname. And the meaning is woods or forest. Then we have the character for mountain, and you can see here sort of a drawing for a mountain, and then we have a stick figure sketch over here from ancient times, which evolved eventually into the character for mountain. And we have one for horse here, again the drawing and the stick figure that evolved to become what we see today. So it's kind of interesting. Even the evolutionary step right before this one, you can see the mane of the horse, the legs, the tail. Then we have the character for knife. So in ancient times, it's a pretty simplified drawing. So today the character is also pretty simple. Then we have the character for fish. Again, stick figure. And you can see the scale, the fins, evolving into the modern Mandarin character for fish. And the last one is the character for door. Stick figure drawing, evolving into modern day character. So not every single Mandarin character can be analyzed in this fashion. Usually it's the things in the world that we see that have a chance of being traced back in this manner. There are plenty of characters that do not refer to objects, but refer to intangible ideas. So with those, the characters themselves are also pretty abstract. But I thought that it would be interesting to showcase the evolution of Chinese characters in this fashion, and it actually ties back into this saying that we're talking about. All right. Okay, so I'm getting one report of intermittent audio. How is it for everybody? Hopefully for most people it's okay. All right, I'm gonna continue. Okay, I'm getting 100%, so I think we're in pretty good shape. Excellent, thank you, Alex. Thanks, everybody. Let me continue. So there's plenty more to talk about. Now, I want to focus on the very last line. This is important. So we're about to head into a major discussion of 玄德, the mystery virtue. Looking at the time, I noticed that it's 11:25. So right before we get into the major discussion is a good time for us to take a 5-minute break. Okay, everyone, the time is now 11:30 Pacific. So time for us to get back to the presentation. So I want to spend a moment to talk about this character, Xuan. So in modern Mandarin, when you say 玄, a lot of times you will hear it when people say, talk about, describe something as being difficult to understand. When they say 很玄, 很 is a very commonly used character. It means very, 很. Like when you say good, 好, 很好, very good. So 很玄, very 玄. So 玄 in this case will be difficult to understand, mysterious, or in our context, mystical. So when we put it next to the character for virtues, 德, we're talking about a virtue that's mysterious, mystical, or difficult to understand. So the reason why 玄德 is called 玄德 is because it's a virtue that to many people will seem rather hard to understand. So I want to make sure that we completely talk about the reason why that is, and the reason why Tao cultivators and sages practice 玄德. So let's do it methodically. Let's do it systematically. So in Pinyin, it looks like this. And this would be, for those who have not studied Mandarin, have not studied Pinyin, it would be tricky to sound this out. So let me just explain that it sounds like 玄德. So it's not di, it's not de, it's de. And x here is more like sh, 玄德. So literally, the two characters mean mystic and then virtue. Now, if you were to call it mysterious virtue, that's okay. Although, mysterious carries a whole bunch of context. So first of all, let's talk about what it is. It's the, if you look back in the chapter, you notice that it's the combination of the previous 3 lines. I'm showing 2 here, but it's 14, 15, and 16. So it's a combination of 3 different characteristics. Number 1, not being possessive of what you create. That is, you have total willingness to share your work with the world. Number 2, not being arrogant despite what you have accomplished and or the excellence of your work. Sometimes people become arrogant because of the great works that they have done. Other times, it might not be a huge amount of work, but it's of excellent quality, and therefore they become arrogant. So there's a number 3, not being domineering over those who you have nurtured, feeling no need to control anyone. So despite having nurtured and helped people, someone with mystic virtue would feel no desire to interfere with their lives, to control them, to dominate over them. So having seen mystic virtue as a combination of 1, 2, and 3, I want to logically go to the next question, and that is, well, why are they difficult to understand? I mean, looking at 1, 2, and 3 here, I don't see anything that's too difficult here. I can understand not being possessive. I can understand not being arrogant, to be humble. I can understand not being domineering. What's so hard to understand about that? That's the next slide. Why is it mystical, mysterious, or difficult to understand? Well, it's called 玄德because it's opposite, or it runs counter to what most people do. What do most people do? They usually try to squeeze every bit of advantage out of a situation. So, using the same 3 overall areas, let me explain. What most people do when they have something that they have created. It could be a work of art. It could be maybe so perhaps a painting or a song. It could be software they have written. It could be something perhaps a novel or a story they have written, or it could be any number of other things. So people have a tendency to be possessive, proprietary, protective of what they create in order to hype up its value. So remember, this is no longer talking about protecting intellectual property rights or respecting copyright laws. This is about an overzealously protective attitude in keeping something a quote-unquote secret, like a trade secret, secret recipe, something that you guard jealously. And the reason why they want to do that is because they want to extract more value out of it, or to hype up, to increase its value, perceived value. Number two, people don't tend to be humble. They tend to get arrogant when they have accomplished something. And in fact, people get arrogant when they have accomplished something that is not so great. Maybe the scale isn't so grand. It's just, kind of there. Maybe the quality is not fantastic, mediocre. It's perhaps mediocre or unremarkable. Even that causes people to become rather arrogant. Never mind when they have created something that is deemed to be good, of a high quality, then chances are even more that they get arrogant. They become full of themselves. They want to be seen as important. So to be seen as important, to become arrogant in that fashion, to draw attention to yourself, these are ways to hype up one's personal value. So number one is about hyping up the value of something, an invention, some sort of work, perhaps a novel that you have written. You hype it up as the great American novel. To become arrogant is to hype up yourself. Everybody look at me. I am so great. Mine is the mind that has given rise to this beautiful, wonderful, miraculous thing here. Me, me, me. So that's number two, hyping up your own value. Number three, people can be controlling. They lord over or boss around people they have helped in some way. So this is another way of increasing value. In this case, it is to increase one's social standing. Like, I've helped you and you and you, so you all owe me something. You owe me allegiance, and I get to tell you what to do. I get to control you. I get to look over what you're doing because, after all, I'm the one who helped you. I am your sifu, and now you have to listen to me. You have to do what I say. You have to not question me. So here we're talking about hyping up the value of one's position. So these three together are the reasons why most people don't do what seems kind of common sense on the surface. So the mystic virtue is, hey, be humble, don't be arrogant, and let people be. Don't interfere with them. Don't tell them what to do. Don't meddle in their business. And also, hey, while you've created something good, don't get possessive. Share it. Those seem like common sense, and yet when we look at the world, when we look at society, we see the opposite. we see people trying everything they can to increase the value of everything about themselves. Their creation, number one, their personal selves, number two, and number three, their position. So it's mystical, it's mysterious, because it is in fact not what people do. So let's bring it back to what Tao cultivators do. So first of all, if you do the same thing, if you go against the Tao in the same way, things work out poorly. They don't work out well. Why not? What's the harm of me protecting something that I have created? I guard it jealously. I call it my secret. I don't share with anyone. Maybe I dole out just a little bits and pieces at a time. Why wouldn't I do that? It's mine. Well, usually the people that do that, things don't end well for them because something better comes along. So people lose interest in what you've been guarding so jealously. Perhaps it is a secret behind an invention that you have created. Maybe it's a product and you are protecting it, with business secrets, trade secrets, and whatnot. Now, it may be a valuable innovation, but the nature of life is that it constantly continues to change. So something else will come along. And people will direct their attention to that instead of what you've been guarding so jealously. So number one doesn't work out well. Number two, if you're arrogant, if you become arrogant, you think a lot of yourself, what can happen is when people perceive the arrogance, they withdraw their support. And they may not really bother to tell you that's what they're doing. They just become more distant naturally. And you notice that probably you have seen yourself doing the same thing. If you think back on life, when you have encountered people who were unbearably arrogant, you've also had a natural tendency to back away, to withdraw. So if you are that way, if you get that way, become full of yourself, perhaps without you being aware of it, people are backing away. And number three, about being controlling, well, that's not going to work out well for you either, because people you try to control or manipulate will all seek the first opportunity to jump ship, basically to get as far from you as they can. This is also something that I have seen in life. I have seen people who try to control, manipulate everything and everyone around them. And these, I am sad to say, are the loneliest people. So they desperately want to be surrounded by other people, good friends, good cheer, good company, fellowship, camaraderie. They want all that. So they go overboard in trying to keep people with them, trying to tie people to them. And it always backfires. They end up with nobody around. They end up very lonely. And I don't know, probably, like raise 20 cats for company. All right, so another periodic check on audio. I have now gone through the last 15 minutes of our meeting without GoToMeeting giving me an alert on losing audio. So I'm thinking that the audio should be okay. All right. Excellent. Thanks, guys. I can continue with being, less nervous about the audio situation, calmer as we should all be. So let's wrap up the discussion on 玄德 mystery virtue. So things don't work out well if you go against the Tao in the same fashion like most people do. So what to do if you want to practice the Tao? What to do if you want to cultivate the mystery virtue? First, you realize that the more you try to maximize your rewards in life, so that's what most people do. That's the context in which it makes sense, is that they're all trying to maximize their rewards by hyping up the value of something they're keeping proprietary, by hyping up their own value as individuals, or by elevating their position in society. The more they seem to start out at a disadvantage. People are like, well, why are you giving your invention away so freely? Wouldn't you want to make a lot of money? Keeping this a secret and milk it for all it's worth. So they don't do that. They share with the world. So they seem to start out at a disadvantage. But somehow they always end up with rewards, recognition, and respect without ever seeking or needing them. And that's why it's mysterious. This kind of people, they live in joy, they perfect their craft, they attain excellence effortlessly. Part of the reason is because they know that Tao is an infinite resource, so they keep going back to it to get more and more and more, and they don't mind sharing because of it. And because they never get arrogant, they continue to practice and perfect their craft until they get really, really good at it. And then even then, they don't stop. Then they become transcendent. They go beyond expectations. So all of this can seem magical or miraculous, but at the end of the day, it's just the Tao. So hopefully by now, you have seen the importance of practicing the three different things when it comes to 玄德. For example, when parents are raising their kids without trying to smother them, interfere with them, dominate them, you end up actually with a very close relationship. The family is very close, constantly keep in touch, and that's ideal for happiness in life. Okay, so we've had a lengthy discussion on chapter 10. We are now at the very last line, and we have concluded the mystery virtue. So the time is now, I think we're ready for the paraphrase. And after the paraphrase, there's a question that I need to answer, and then we can go to 11. Okay, so back to the first subsection, the first six lines. So remember, it's all about internal spiritual cultivation. So here's the way that I would paraphrase it in modern English. So I think the audio is going to come and go probably, but so far, it broke up a little bit, and then I think it's okay again. Okay, if it gets really bad, you guys, I will switch over to cell phone. So y'all let me know if that becomes a necessity. If not, we're gonna do the paraphrase. So for the first one, to cultivate yourself internally, turn your gaze within and embrace your unifying essence. Can you do this without letting your attention wander? Manage your breathing and become aware of the energy coursing through your body. Can you relax yourself until you feel as soft and carefree as an infant? Lastly, release all concerns and worries about the material world. Can you let all of it go without exception. I see that we're not updating here. Okay. So here we go. Then, in the section that follows, we switch from the internal to the external. And the external is about interactions with other people and handling the various affairs of your life. So here's what I would like to offer. To cultivate yourself externally, you must manage your life and connect with your loved ones without meddling. In using your mind to solve problems and make plans, you must incorporate the gentleness and flexibility of the yin principle. As you observe the situation all around you, you must trust your feelings and not second guess yourself in overthinking the matter or end up with analysis paralysis. All right, and let's go to the last section there. We can live a great life if we learn from the Tao in shaping every aspect of it. That means not being possessive of what we create, not being arrogant when we have accomplished things, and not being domineering toward those we have helped. It doesn't seem advantageous to live this way, and yet it is the sure path to greatness. This is the mystic virtue. Okay, there we go. That's chapter 10. Okay, so for the summary today, I would like to present some thoughts, finishing, ending thoughts from 10. And the idea is focused around mystic virtue, how to practice, embrace, and live the mystic virtue. Number one, and I mixed them up a little bit, but they were the same three that you saw. Number one, never let any success go to your head. This is easier said than done. You know, people initially may be like, oh yeah, no problem, no problem. No matter how successful I get, I'm just gonna be the same old me. But then success happens and they are not the same person anymore. So to help not let success go to your head, I would suggest the world is full of truly remarkable individuals. So if you see how remarkable some of these people are, it really helps you gain a perspective on yourself so that you don't end up feeling like you are all that in a bag of chips or the greatest invention since sliced bread, that you would put yourself in a more humble context. For that reason, I enjoy reading biographies. Biographies written by some of the most remarkable, humble, and I would suggest the same for everyone. Number two, help people without feeling like they owe you some sort of duty or allegiance. So when you help people, I would like to challenge everyone to provide assistance, not for some kind of payback, not for some kind of benefit, provided just because it's good and it's the right thing to do, and for no other reason. Number three, share your talents, skills, and creations. So this goes back to people becoming too proprietary, guarding their secret methods jealously. So to them, I would say, listen, you come into this world bearing gifts. Your talents, your skills, the things you create, the fear goes sort of like, well, what if I run out. If I give these away, I've got nothing more. Well, that's the last part here. When you're notes, I would like to conclude our meeting for today. Let's go ahead and do the meeting ending ritual, everybody. 起立，面向佛堂，持架深鞠躬，一鞠躬，再鞠躬，三鞠躬，持架各位顶传十一鞠躬，斜翻一鞠躬。We're done, everybody. Thank you so much.